Welcome, soul driven writers, to the Soul Writer Podcast. This podcast is designed for writers like you who have a burning desire to share their story and message with the world and make the biggest impact possible. I'm your host, Lauren Eckhardt, bestselling author, ghostwriter, book coach, and the CEO of Burning Soul Collective. Here at the Soul Writer Podcast, we believe in the power of vulnerability and authenticity. Our mission is to inspire and empower you to write from the depths of your soul by showcasing other authors who have done exactly that. Through their journeys, you'll discover what it takes to write a book that truly resonates with readers and learn how you can embrace your own unique voice to live the writer's life that you've always imagined. So, gather your favorite writing tools, cozy up in your favorite spot, and let's explore the world of soul-driven writing together. This is the Soul Writer Podcast, where your passion meets purpose and the world awaits the magic that only you can create. Welcome to the journey. Welcome back to another episode of the Soul Writer Podcast. I am really excited about this particular episode because we're going to cover probably the number one question that we get asked time and time again. And that question is, which publishing path is right for me? How do I choose? And for many people, they don't even know that there are three different types of publishing, which is what we will cover today. Now, as you know, I do these episodes as a follow-up to a previous episode. And so the one before this was my interview with Linda Saran, who is the author of three different children's books. And one of the most fascinating facts about Linda is that she published the first of that trilogy of children's books 25 years ago, before self-publishing was even a thing. And it's so funny talking to her because she doesn't remember how she even did it. It was just like she was guided to take one step, then another that led to the self-publishing of this book. And she had a lot of support from her community as well. Again, not people who were necessarily experts, but who were willing to do the illustrations for it and who were willing to help with the printing of it. Y'all, it's so amazing to think about how far the publishing industry has come since 25 years ago. And there have been a lot of changes, and there are ongoing changes. It's very, very important as you're going down this author path, especially if you're looking at publishing more than one book, to stay on top of what is the publishing industry like, especially in relation to my particular book, my particular market. Because again, it's ever changing. I mean, I can't even tell you, especially over the past few years, I feel like there are so many different policies and just different elements of the path changing. Things with distributors, like especially Amazon, they have been pretty brutal in the past to indie authors, while at the same time opening up the opportunity. But there's been a lot of struggles. So it's really, really important to know the ins and outs and to join groups where you can continue to learn from other authors. That's why we are such an advocate for having that author community where you can continually learn from each other, bounce ideas off of each other, and just really support each other. Because again, it's not just that you publish a book and that's it. It's just the beginning of the journey to come, especially when you really believe in your book and you know the impact that it can have. So let's go ahead and dive into the information. There are three different publishing paths that you can choose: the traditional publishing route, the self-publishing route, and the hybrid publishing route. Let's start by breaking down what they are so that you have the full vision for it. Number one is traditional publishing. So this involves submitting your manuscript to a publishing house. This can be one of the big five, which is what they're known for. And this includes like Penguin Random House, HarperCollins, Simon and Schuster, or a smaller independent press. Typically, the submission process is facilitated by a literary agent. That agent is who represents your interest in the publishing world. So typically, you have to start with querying for a literary agent first. So that is like a full process to even find an agent who represents your market and who is willing to represent you as an author. Normally, they receive like 15% of whatever deal that you strike. So, they're getting paid as well. they are the ones then, after probably making some suggestions on how to improve your book, they are the ones then going and pitching it to those traditional publishing houses. If your manuscript is accepted, the publisher then purchases the rights to your work and they will manage the whole process from editing, proofreading, design, printing, marketing, distribution, and sometimes even the translation of your book, which is huge. And what that means is, selling your book in Germany and having it translated in German. So that way your book is worldwide. And, when it gets translated into other languages, it's pretty cool. You're typically paid in advance when you go through traditional publishing. So it's a lump sum ahead of time. And then, of course, you can get further earnings from royalties. So, let me explain these two concepts of advances and royalties so that you fully understand them. An advance is, like I said, a lump sum of money up front. Usually, this is negotiated. Like if you are an author that's very well known, this is usually even offered while you're still writing your book, and then you're just pitching the concept, especially for nonfiction books, because a lot of nonfiction books, you're usually just submitting the proposal of your book, which is a very, very detailed outline of what your book is going to include, why it's going to be so unique in the market, how it's going to help people, why it will sell, all of that before you fully write your book. Okay. And this is again for traditional publishing. Usually it's the book proposal that comes first. So then when your book proposal is accepted, they will pay in advance at that point too, which is that money that will essentially pay you to write that book. Again, this is not always the process. Sometimes your book will already be completed when it's then pitched and accepted by the publishing. And then when you're paid in advance at that time, you're paid in advance, not just to write, but it's like the being paid for your book. Now, the thing with an advance is it's exactly that. It's an advance. It's an advance on your royalties. So let me explain what royalties are. These are a percentage of your book sales, and it's usually given based off of the retail price and or sometimes it is based off of the remaining amount, meaning if your book is being sold for $19.99 and there are all of these additional percentages taken out, like for distributors, for the printing costs, for all of that, then there's an amount that's left, and there will be a percentage, then a large percentage that goes to the publisher. And then, of course, you have a percentage taken out for your literary agent, and then you have an amount for you. All of that is one of those things that are negotiated in your contract. So it's just really important to pay attention. Like I said, it's going to be a little different from traditional houses to smaller presses. So those are the things to always fully look at, fully understand, and to always ask questions on. But all of that being said, so an advance is an advance on your money. And so what happens is that usually, say if your advance is $50,000 and your book is out there selling, you would not earn extra royalties until your advanced amount, that $50,000, is paid off first by the royalties, and then you would earn the additional royalties after that point. So, in some sense, I guess you can associate it with like a loan, an interest-free loan. And then you will get paid after your amount of royalties reaches that 50,000 and you'll get paid any amount after. So hopefully that makes sense. So they're just good things to know because a lot of people don't even realize what an advance is when they're signing these contracts. Okay. Second path is self-publishing, and this is when you act as your own publisher and you become the entire team. Thanks to technology, print on demand services, self-publishing has become so much more accessible in recent years. And in this, you maintain all rights to your book. You have complete control over every step of the process, from editing to proofreading to design, printing, distribution. Every cost or every price that you set, it's entirely up to you. You receive all of those leftover net royalties from sales, meaning, again, you're looking at your retail price, distributor amounts, which is usually like 40% when you're going through Amazon, or, it can go up to 55% if you're going through Ingram Spark, which then distributes to like Barnes and Noble and other places. You're responsible for the marketing of your book as well, either by yourself or through hired help. And, there's several different platforms that you can self-publish through. Now, self publishing had a really bad reputation for the first few years that it was available because what it did is it allowed for anyone in this world to publish their book, right? It just became really easy for anyone to do so. That has shifted dramatically, although, of course, you have the people who are still just throwing books on. They're not editing their book. They're not doing professional cover designs. You can just see that it's a self published book. But then you have this whole new era of self publishing where you can't tell the difference between a traditionally published book and a self published book because these are the people actually taking it seriously and ensuring that it is all done correctly and is able to be competitive in its market. So again, it still carries this bad reputation, but this is for people who don't know anything about it, don't know the difference, and they don't know what people can actually do. And the cool thing is that when you pick up a book, you're not really looking at who the publisher is, right? One of the things that we always suggest through our self publishing processes, which we have several different programs that walk you through this. We have our Soulful Author Journey program, which will walk you through writing, publishing, and marketing your book. And there's a huge course in there with self publishing. We also have our self publishing guide, which is just like this document that walks you step by step through all of this so that you self publish the correct way. All of those will help you achieve that goal because it helps to know the ins and the outs because there are so many little things. So, one of the things that is really important that we suggest is that you create your own imprint name. So, again, going back to like Penguin Random House, you create your very own so it looks professional as well. And there's a lot of different options related to that, which we won't go into the details with. But if you're interested, again, look at our self publishing guide on the burningsoulcollective.com site or look into our Soulful Author Journey program if you actually want more of a mentor walking you through these steps because it can be overwhelming. But again, there's a lot of pros, which we'll talk about the pros and cons to each one here in a bit. So, hybrid publishing then is more of a blend of that traditional and self publishing. It falls right in between. So, typically with this path, authors will pay a company to publish their book, and that company will offer a range of services similar to traditional publishers, such as editing, design, marketing, distribution. But hybrid publishers vary in what they offer and what their business models are. Some take a percentage of sales, like a traditional publisher, while others operate more like a service provider, taking no royalties, but then charging for services. So, usually the author will retain the rights to the books through hybrid publishing. So, that is a huge pro. But no matter what, it's really important to research and vet hybrid publishers carefully because the quality and the reputation of these companies can vary widely. One of the things that people will get confused by is the difference between a hybrid publisher and a vanity publisher. A vanity publisher will pose like a hybrid publisher, but they are truly all about getting your money and not about actually helping you. So, how can you tell the difference? A big one is that all they'll do for your book is like upload your book on the platforms. You do not need to spend thousands of dollars to have someone upload your book on a platform. They might also be taking money up front and then also money through selling your book. And you have to really balance that out. Like, what are you getting paid as the author of this book? So, you really have to look into it. I mean, to me, a big warning sign is if someone just uploads your book and that's it. Now, if a publisher that you're looking at is offering the editing, they're offering the publishing of it, they're offering the marketing support, that is a good sign that it's a hybrid publisher and not a vanity publisher. So do your research, take a look at what they've put out and how they help people. Now, one thing I want to point out is that yes, some hybrid publishers will have an option where you can pay them to help market your book. Most of the time, y'all, no matter what path you choose, the traditional self publishing, hybrid publishing, you are going to be responsible for selling your book. And this is something that a lot of people struggle with because they don't want to have any any role in that whatsoever. But a publisher's job is to publish your book. And yes, like I said, provide support, their market expertise to you in ensuring that your book can be positioned properly and to give you tools and the strategies to be able to go out and apply. But you're still ultimately going to be responsible for selling your book, getting it into the hands of the right readers by talking about it. And you should want to. If you have poured your heart and soul into this book, you should not stop talking about it. You should be so excited that it has been created. It's here. It's this masterpiece, right? It's this beautiful work of art. You have to be willing to go out and talk about it nonstop. And one of the biggest myths is like traditional publishers will take care of all of that for you. No, it's like the same thing. They are guiding you on what needs to be done to properly market your book, but they are wanting you to get out there and do it. So keep this in mind, okay, when you're trying to decide which publishing path is right for you. So let's go ahead and dive into a few of the pros and cons. Number one, I always say, like, you have to know your vision for your book. Like, you have to know the goals that you want to be able to achieve with your book, because that will help you pick which publishing path is right for you. So, for example, if your sole dream is that you've always wanted to see your book in a bookstore, and not just in any bookstore, but you want to see your book in bookstores nationwide, worldwide, your best bet is going to be traditional publishing. Can it be done with self-publishing and hybrid publishing? Yes, but it takes a lot more effort, it takes a lot more work to be able to achieve that. You have to have proof that your book is selling so that these bookstores are willing to make the shelf space for your book. With traditional publishers, they already have the connections, the sales lines where when they put out a book, bookstores are willing to hold the space for them. So if that is like your sole dream, traditional publishing is it for you. Okay. So that's just an example. If you really want control over your book, you don't want anyone to take the rights of your book because you have the dreams of, Netflix picking it up for a mini series someday. You then want to look at hybrid or self publishing so you can retain that control, the rights of your book. Okay. So let's go into the pros and cons. Traditional publishing, let's start there. So the pros is the reputation and the prestige behind it. Being accepted by a traditional publisher can lend that air of credibility and prestige to your work. Like having a book be a part of Simon and Schuster, it can be really meaningful to you and to be able to share that with other people. Secondly, is that professional editing and design, they know the market and they're using professional editors, designers, formatters to ensure that your book is polished and professional. They're taking care of the distribution. So they've already, like we've talked about, they've already established those distribution networks, which can get your book into more stores, both physically and online. They can also help handle some of that advertising of your book in the right marketing streams. You might also, of course, receive an advance payment, that advance that we talked about earlier, before your book is even published. Now, some of the cons is that it's difficult to get in. There are gatekeepers upon gatekeepers to get into traditional publishing, and it's fierce, especially for first-time authors, and even more so if you don't have a huge following on social media or media proof elsewhere that this book is going to connect with people, then it's really hard to stand out with a traditional publisher. You're also losing your creative control. Publishers have the final say on things like the title, the cover design, and sometimes even the content of your book. Next, it's a long process. It can take a long time from not only querying like that literary agent and then waiting for them to be able to sell your book to a publisher. But then once the publisher has it, it can be a long time until it's finally published. I mean, like 1 to 3 years. You're also going to get a lot less in royalties because they are taking the majority of the royalties and you're left with a small amount. So, again, it's what's important to you. Now, self-publishing, the pros, you have total creative control over the content, cover design, everything, the contents of your book. You get higher royalties because you're bypassing the publisher. So you are getting 100% of those net royalties, which is, like I said, left over after distributor costs going to Amazon, Ingram Spark, those sort of things, and after printing costs. It's quick to market. I mean, self-publishing, you can get your book up tomorrow. I don't recommend it. I recommend doing everything the right way, which is why we have our guides and our course to help you with that. But once your book is ready, you can publish it almost instantly. Now, the cons is that it requires 100% self-financing. So you will have to cover the cost of that editing, cover design, formatting, printing, if you're not doing like print on demand. Real quick side note on that, print on demand in relation to self-publishing is really beneficial because you're not having to buy copies up front to like store in your house and then ship out to people. What it does is that like places like Amazon or Ingram Spark, it allows the order to come into them and then they print your book when the order comes in and ships it out. So you don't have to pay for them to even store it in their warehouse. They're just printing it and shipping it. So that's what's really nice with print on demand. And of course, you can always do bulk sales even through them or bulk orders where you're buying, say, 500 books, which drives down the cost per book. And then you're able to sell those at events or sell them off your website, whatever it is you want to do. There's a lot of different options. So you're responsible for that marketing and distributing of your book, which can be time consuming and difficult. And then there's no advance. So really, you're just earning. So you've invested money into your book and then you're just earning afterwards. There's no advance coming from anyone. Now, one thing you can do that's really popular are creating campaigns like Kickstarter, which allows you to set up some sort of trade off. If people will support a certain amount of your book while it's getting written or published, whatever it might be, they get some perks in return. So you can set up those things as well to help you offset the cost. Now, no matter what, I can't tell you enough the importance of investing in your book. And this is one of the things that truly separates the people who do self-publishing right and those who do it the wrong way. And then they get frustrated that they're not seeing the results that they hoped from their book. Y'all, you have to be willing to invest in your book if you're going to self-publish. I mean, even with professional editing, game changer, a professional cover design, you can see the difference between a do-it-yourself cover design and a professional cover design. Interior formatting, which is the way the pages of the book looks, to really ensure that this creates this beautiful reader journey experience. Investing in this is worth it. You have to think that these books are going to be around for the rest of your life. It is reflecting you for the rest of your life, even after your years here in this world are done with. So you want to make sure that it looks professional, it looks well done, and you've taken your time, okay? So let's talk about hybrid publishing, that mix between both. So the pros, you get more creative control than traditional publishing. Usually hybrid publishers, like what we do with Burning Soul Press, we work with you on your vision. Like, what do you want to achieve? What are you seeing with your book? What's like your ideal cover design for your book? All of that. And then we are bridging our expertise with the market with your ideas to create the final product. And you can reject things if you don't like it, but it's really about listening to what we're recommending from the market and then marrying it with your vision to ensure that it is exactly the type of book that will reach the readers it's meant to reach. Hybrid publishing in general, they will offer professional editing, design, formatting services. So you can get all of that in one location. You don't have to spend all this time trying to coordinate a team or even to find those team members. You can go through one company that will be that project manager for you. And it's also easier entry than traditional publishing. So typically you can get in pretty easy with a hybrid publisher. But the most important part is really choosing a hybrid publisher who has that expertise in your particular market. Make sure you look for that. Like at Burning Soul Press, we specialize in memoirs, self help, and inspirational books. So, in thought leadership books, we will not take on any books that fall outside of that. And the other thing that we look for are the authors who truly want to make a long-term difference, create generational change with their book. And if those aren't the authors, if authors are just doing it to have a business card, essentially, those are not the projects we take on. And that's fine. It's finding the hybrid publisher that you align with and that also aligns with you. That's really important because it's a true partnership. Okay, so the cons. You are investing upfront still. It's all author finance. For the most part. Some will have where they take a percentage of your royalties instead, or they do a blend. So you just have to work with them on what their process is, and of course, find one that fits what you're looking for. There are varying levels of support. It's not consistent from one hybrid publisher to the next, which is again why talking to them, interviewing them is so important. And then you, of course, have to vet the quality because not all hybrid publishers are created equal. So, deciding which path is right for you, just consider your personal goals, your resources, your skills. So, like if it's having that prestige is important to you, the wide distribution, professional services, if all of those are super important to you, as long as you're willing to surrender some creative control and a significant portion of your royalties, then traditional publishing might be a good fit. If maintaining creative control and earning higher royalties are more important to you, and you're willing to handle the editing, the design, and marketing of your book, or hire individual people to do so, then self-publishing might be the way to go. If you're looking for a blend of professional services and more control over your book, and you're willing to either share some of the cost of your book or pay up front for it, then hybrid publishing might be your best option. So it's just weighing the pros and cons for what works best for you. All right, so I know there's a lot of information in that, but hopefully that opens your eyes a little bit to the publishing world if you are not familiar with it. The best thing you can always do is do research for what aligns with you, because that is the most important part. And just remember that it's not just about the impact it makes today, but it's about the impact that it makes for the life of your book, which will go on and on and on and on. Thank you so much for tuning in to another inspiring episode of the Soul Writer Podcast. I hope today's conversation has ignited a newfound passion and determination in you to write from a place of vulnerability, authenticity, and soul. Remember, your story has the power to make a significant impact in the world. And by sharing your unique voice, you're contributing to the tapestry of human experience. So go forth, embrace your soul-driven purpose, and let your words transform the lives of your readers. Be sure to subscribe to the Soul Writer Podcast so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming episodes, where we'll continue to share valuable insights and inspiring stories from fellow authors. You can also join our community on social media to connect with like-minded writers and share your own journey by looking at Burning Soul Collective. Until next time, keep shining your light, and remember, your story matters. Your words have power, and the world needs the magic that only you can create. This is the Soul Rider Podcast, signing off for now. Right on, my friends.